Old Bailey has been London's central criminal court since 1674, and many famous trials have taken place here. Perhaps the most significant trial ever to take place was not here at the Old Bailey, or even in the United Kingdom, but in Jerusalem in AD 33. It was precisely the process of law which is adhered to in a court like this that was denied to Jesus at his trial. The high priest who presided at the Sanhedrin asked Jesus, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" He replied that he was. Jesus had made a claim to be the Messiah, God's King, whose arrival was anticipated in the Jewish scriptures. But what if it were true? I don't know whether or not there's a defence in first century Palestine to the offence of blasphemy. But supposing justification were a defence, that is to say, supposing it were a defence to prove that the claim made was actually true, shouldn't the high priest have let Jesus have his say? Shouldn't he have asked him, "What evidence do you have that you are the Messiah, you are God's King?" Wouldn't a fair tribunal ask that question? The 66 books of the Bible would have been an ideal trial bundle at Jesus' trial. The Old Testament looks forward to the coming of Jesus, and the New Testament speaks of his birth, his life, his death, and his resurrection. Mark's Gospel had not been written at the time of Jesus' sham trial. But supposing that the high priest, the Sanhedrin, had had a copy of it before them, they would have been able to see evidence of Jesus healing the sick, casting out demons, healing a paralyzed man, raising a little girl from the dead, calming a raging storm with a mere 3 words, feeding the 5,000 with only 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Yet whilst he was doing all of these things, he was predicting that he would be rejected by the authorities, he would be killed, and that he would rise again in 3 days. So he knew his sham trial was coming. Why did he go willingly to his death? Why did he see that as the prime purpose for coming to earth? For the answer to that question, we have to turn to tab 1 in the bundle, the book of Genesis. That book tells us that God created the heavens and the earth. He created everything, and it was good. But Adam and Eve rebelled against God. They exercised their free will and decided they wanted to run their lives their own way, without reference to him. At that point, sin or rebellion against God entered the world, and we've been living with its consequences ever since. Just like Adam and Eve, we too are fallen, and our natural inclination is to rebel against God, despite the fact that he created us and loves us. And we see the symptoms of that rebellion every day in the courts. Crimes, cruelty, murder, malice, rape, deceit, greed, pride, envy. The list is endless. The Bible tells us that God is not only a God of love, but he's a God of justice. He hates evil. And thankfully, he does not leave it unpunished. But that leaves a problem for us, because on the day of judgment, it's not just murderers and rapists who will be found wanting. It is everybody who has turned their back on God, the author of all that is good. If we choose to persist in our rebellion, then he will confirm us in our choice. And on the day of judgment, the sentence will be hell. Hell is not to be compared with a Western prison, but is a place of a horrendous eternal torment. The scales of justice will always be unfavourable to us when we are judged by God's standards. Let's return to our question. Why did Jesus have to come to earth? Why did he have to die and rise again? The answer is this. Jesus was both God and man. He lived the perfect life on earth, and by his crucifixion, he took the punishment that we deserve for our sinfulness. If we want to benefit from God's rescue plan, then all we have to do is accept his offer of forgiveness, accept that Jesus died in our places, and trust him with the rest of our lives. It will be costly. We will no longer be our own, but will belong to God. However, we will be living in a right relationship with our Creator, the one who sustains us, who loves us and cares for us. Let's return to the trial of Jesus. You'll recall that he was handed over by the Jewish authorities to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate asked him, "Are you a king? Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus responded, "You are right in saying that I am a king. In fact, it was for this reason I was born, to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." Will you react like the high priest and the Jewish authorities who refused to listen to Jesus and to give him a fair trial? What about Pilate? Will you respond like him? He couldn't find anything wrong with Jesus. He asked the right question. But in the end, it was too much trouble for him to treat Jesus justly, and he gave in to the pressure of the baying crowd. Will you give Jesus a fair trial? Will you look at the evidence? Will you look at the witness accounts as they're set out in the Gospel? Will you consider accepting Jesus as King, the one who died for your sins in your place? I want to encourage you to do that. Read through a Gospel. Perhaps attend a Christianity Explored course which looks at the claims of Jesus Christ. But whatever you do, can I appeal to you not to be responsible for a miscarriage of justice as you consider the claims of Jesus?